Hello everyone and welcome back to mountmoontcg. Today's video I'm going to be taking a look at what I think are going to be the top 10 most competitive cards in the upcoming mini set Prismatic Evolutions. Now Prismatic Evolutions, I get the feeling, is going to be a highly collectible set. Everyone's going to want to get their hands on it, mainly because of all the evolution cards that are in this set. And we're going to talk about a couple of those evolution cards in a little bit here. But do remember that this set does release January 17th, so should be 2 weeks when this video is released. So go out and go buy yourselves some, I think they come out in Elite Trainer boxes, I believe is the only way to get this set. I could be wrong about that. But do get your hands on this because, like I said, I believe a lot of collectors are going to be trying to get their hands on this really cool set because evolutions. Everybody loves evolutions. There's an evolution for everybody. So, like I always do when a set or a mini set comes out, I'm going to tell you what I think are the top 10 cards from this set. Now, bear with me. Can't use half this set for a top 10 list because half the cards are reprints that are currently in the format right now. There's the Teal Mask Ogre Pond, there's Iron Hands, there's like Glass Trumpet. There's a lot of cards that are currently out right now that are included in this set. So there's a lot of filler in this, and to be frank, there's not a whole lot I'm very excited about. Not to say that there's nothing good in this set, but I just have a feeling that a lot of these cards are not going to see a whole lot of play. But we still got a top 10 list to make, so I'm going to tell you what I think are going to be some of the better cards. So first up, we're going to start with an A-Spec card called Max Rod. It's put up to 5 in any combination of Pokemon and basic energy cards from your discard pile into your hand. Now this is something very similar that we've seen before. I believe Brock's Grit did something very similar. I think that was 6 in combination of basic energy and Pokemon, but that was on a supporter, and here it is an item card. So this could be very good in, let's say, Goldango decks, where you can get the 5 energy from the discard, put them back into your hand, and then you can use the Goldango attack, make it rain straight away. There is going to be a little bit of a debate if you want to play Max Rod, or if you want to play the Energy Search Pro. I did cover Energy Search Pro in my when I played over Goldango, so if you want to check out that video when I played some TCG Live. Not necessarily does this have to be in Goldango decks, but this is a nice recovery card if you need to get a whole bunch of energy straight away. You could also use this in Raging Bolt decks if you really wanted to get those energies that you discarded with the Raging Bolt attack. I think this does have some possibility of being decent. Like I've always said, Prime Catcher is kind of the standard when it comes to A-Specs for this generation of Pokemon. If you get anywhere close to Prime Catcher, you are a really good card. Unfortunately, not a lot of A-Specs, in my opinion, are that good, but some of them do have their niches in certain decks, and I think this has a decent niche in maybe those Goldango, Raging Bolt decks. It seems like a pretty decent card. So yeah, Max Rod will be here at number 10. Coming up next at number 9, we have Toadscru. Toadscru has the ability Forest Path. As long as this Pokemon is on your bench, your active Pokemon's retreat cost is 2 colorless less. Now, I'm a big fan of Free Retreat. Because I love the old Pokemon tool card Floatstone. Floatstone was a pretty good card, mixed that with Garbodor, Garbotoxin, just chef's kiss. Big fan of Free Retreat. And this Toadscru can give a lot of decks some Free Retreat. I mentioned Goldango earlier. It has a 2 retreat cost, if I remember correctly. So you can have an active Goldango, you can use the ability to draw 2 more cards, then retreat it with the Toadscru, bring up another Goldango, draw 2 more cards, because Goldango draws more cards when it's in the active. You could make it work in that kind of deck. It only has to be a 1/1 Toadscru in a deck. Maybe instead of the Togekiss line, you put Toadscru in there. This can work with many other decks. that have like an awkward retreat cost, like 2. Usually the 1 retreat cost, there's the board that you can use to retreat. You can also just attach 1 energy and retreat it. There's ways around it if you have 1 retreat cost. 2 can be a little bit harder to do, but now you got the Toadscru. You can retreat more Pokemon, and Toadscru just has to sit on the bench. It doesn't have to be active or anything dumb like that. A nice niche card. Why not? We can't talk about evolutions the whole time, even though a lot of people would like me to just make the top 10 all evolution cards. I can't do that. You got to give some love to the other Pokemon in this. So Toadscru at number 9. Next up at number 8, we have the supporter card, Black Belt's Practice. During this turn, attacks used by your Pokemon do 40 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon EX before applying weakness and resistance. Now, this can be very good in decks like Charizard EX that like to get, do a lot of damage as soon as possible. This can help them get into areas of a big knockout that they need. And you can also search this out with like a Pidgeot EX, so then you can do your 40 more damage as fast as possible. You don't have to use like a big Pokemon EX. You can use like a 1-price Pokemon as well. Just do remember you do have to be attacking a Pokemon EX. So no Pokemon V, none of that. Do keep that in mind. So this card will get a little bit better when rotation hits, because all the Pokemon V should be gone. We'll just have Pokemon EXs. There is a card. I'm trying to think if there was a card similar to this. We've had cards like this before. We've had like Professor Kukui that did 20 more damage. I believe there was I'm trying to think actually. Now my mind's actually going to Pokemon Pocket, where we got the Giovanni that does 10 more damage, but that's Pokemon Pocket. We're not going to talk about Pokemon Pocket. But we've seen things like this before. There's been like cards. There's been tools like Choice Band and Choice Belt that have done more damage when they're attached to a Pokemon. So it's not uncommon to see cards like this that do more damage to an opponent's active Pokemon. 40 damage is a decent bit of damage. We'll have to wait and see how good this is going to be. But like I said, in Charizard decks or with Pidgeot, where you can just search this out, do 40 more damage, take a big knockout. Pretty decent card. Black Belt's Practice is here at number 8. Next up at number 7, we have Eevee EX. Eevee EX, a very interesting card. So its ability is called Rainbow DNA. Once during your turn, if you have a Pokemon EX in your hand that evolves from Eevee, you may put that card onto this Pokemon to evolve it. You can't use this ability during your first turn or the turn this Pokemon was put into play. Now, currently in our EX format, you can't evolve an EX into another EX. Back in like the 2014, around 2014, you could evolve like a Manectric EX into a Mega Manectric EX, but you need a tool to not lose a turn and all those other fun stuffs. But currently, you can't evolve an EX into another EX. And this Eevee EX allows you to do that. So, if you want to play, say, like an Evolution box type of deck, normally you can only just play 4 Eevees. Well, in this way, you can technically play 8 Eevees. So you can have your 4 1-prize Eevees, then you can have 4 2-prize Eevee EXs, and yeah, you got a lot of basics for all of your evolutions that you want to play. There is currently a Eevee from Surging Sparks that has the ability where you can just evolve it straight away. I'm not saying that this card's better than that card. That card is amazing. But I'm just saying if you need to get the one or two more basic Eevees into play as fast as possible, this is a good card to put in your evolution deck. And then 200 damage for 3, it's meh. But the big thing here is the Rainbow DNA. You can have a EX Pokemon evolve into another Eevee EX. Or not Eevee EX, Evolution EX. So, just because you can put more Eevee into play, and I think Evolutions are going to be fun decks to play with going forward. We got Eevee here at number 7. And coming up at number 6, we have Blazin EX. Blazin EX has Overflowing Spirit as its ability. Once during a turn, you may attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. An ability we have seen countless times. We have seen this very similar on cards like, Malamar. We have seen this on Electric. We have seen this on Bronzong. Seen this on many different kinds of Pokemon. But what's different about this is this ability can attach an energy from the discard to your active Pokemon. Because it just says to one of your Pokemon, not just one of your benched. So that's pretty good. And unlike the other Pokemon I just mentioned, those were stage 1s, this is a stage 2. Because that's kind of the way Pokemon likes to work. You can attach from the discard to the bench as long as it's a stage 1, but anywhere in play is a stage 2, is one thing I have noticed. So getting energy into play is usually very good. We have a lot of good cards in the format right now that get energy into play from the discard pile or from the deck, or from the hand. Not to mention, we have, Ogerpon that can attach from the hand. You have like your Mirage Gates that can attach from the deck, so on and so on and so forth. So energy acceleration is always good. And then Burning Assault, for 2 energy, 200 damage during your next turn, this Pokemon can't attack. For 2 energy, 200, not horrible. It 2-shots anything. And not to mention, you can always switch, Prime Catcher, do other shenanigans, put Blaziken to the bench, move it from the active to the bench, and then back to the active. Resets the attack, and you can use it again. So, a very interesting card. We'll have to see how good Blaziken is going forward. But yeah, I like Blaziken. I think there's some great potential with Blaziken, and that's why Blaziken is here at number 6. At number 5, we got Flareon EX, which could pair with that Blaziken. We'll have to wait and see. Flareon EX has the attack Burning Charge. Search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards and attach them to one of your Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. So this is pretty good. Like I said, energy acceleration is usually pretty darn good. And this is energy coming from the deck, so this is not coming from the discard pile. So this makes it a whole lot better in the early game when most of your energies are going to be in the deck anyhow. And it's 2 energy to do 130. Again, not terrible. You're accelerating your energy. And it's not just fire energy, it's just basic energy. Kind of like with the Blaziken I talked about earlier. Remember, basic energy. Because a lot of these Terra Pokemon have these weird energy costs that can be really good. For 3 energy, 280 for fire, water, and electric. During next turn, this Pokemon can't attack. It is what it is. 3 energy for 280. 280 can knock a lot of things out, except for your stage 2 Terra Pokemon, like Charizard. Also, have a hard time with Gardevoir EX and a lot of these stage 2 Pokemon. That might be a little bit hard to knock out. This can knock out Pidgeot EX. That's an important card in the format that it can knock out. So there you go. Flareon here at number 5. Next up at number 4, we have Leafeon EX. Leafeon EX has the attack Fresh Leaf Storm for 2 energy. It does 60 damage for each energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon. So, if your opponent has, let's say, 5 energy into play, Fresh Leaf Storm will be hitting for 300 damage. And that is a whole lot of damage, I can tell you that much. One-shots just about anything in the format. This is also a Grass-type Pokemon, so it does hit for weakness against Charizard. There's a lot of ways to get energy into play as fast as possible. There's the Teal Mask Ogerpon that gets energy into play. There is, like I mentioned, Charizard that likes to accelerate a couple of energy to itself. You have your Ancient Box decks that get energy into play with the Sada. So yeah, there's ways that your opponent would get energy into play as fast as possible. And then you can punish them by just saying, hey, you attach too many energy, let's knock you out because, well, you fall into my trap. The second attack, 230 and a heal 100 damage from each of your bench Pokemon could be relevant, but I think if you're going to be playing Leafeon EX, you're just going to use the first attack. So for the potential to hit a lot of big damage, and also I'm a big fan of Leafeon, we've got Leafeon here at number 4. But I think the best evolution card is actually going to be Jolteon EX. Jolteon EX has the attack Flash Spear. Does 60 plus, and then discard up to 2 basic energy cards from your benched Pokemon. This attack does 90 more damage for each card you discarded in this way. So, how is one way we can get energy into play as fast as possible? Well, you could pair this up, like I mentioned earlier, you could pair this up with Teal Mask Ogerpon to attach energy to itself and draw some cards. You could just put this into, a Miraidon EX deck that runs, the electric generators to get some energy into play as fast as possible. There's a couple of different ways you can do this. But yeah, if you discard 2 energies, let's see. Discard 2 energy, you'd be doing 180, plus the 60, you'd be doing 240 damage. Which is a nice load of damage. The second attack, Dravite, 280 for 3 energy during next turn. This Pokemon can't attack. It's meh. The Flash Spear is a lot better. And it's also 2 energy, which it's not that hard to power up. You can just attach return and then just put the Ace Spec on it that gets rid of a colorless onto your Terra Pokemon. There's also Electric Generator. There's so many other things that you can use to power up this Jolteon as fast as possible. And Jolteon is here at number 3. Now at number 2, a card that should be, I don't want to call it the Charizard killer or the Dragapult killer, but it is Regigigas. And Regigigas, I think, could be a very good card. You see, for 4 energy, it does 100 plus, and if your opponent's active Pokemon is a Terra Pokemon, this attack does 230 more damage. 330 damage to a Terra Pokemon for 4 energy. Yes, this one shot, this just knocks out anything. I think the only thing it might not knock out is Hydreigon. I think that's 340 HP, if I remember correctly. It could be 330. Not 100% sure, but it's going to knock out pretty much anything. Any big Pokemon. That's a Terra type. Against non-Terras, this is not as good because you're only doing 100 damage to something normal. But most decks have Terra Pokemon in them anyhow, so Regigigas is pretty good. Now, before Lugia V-Star rotates, you can play this in Lugia V-Star because that's one of the biggest ways you can get energy onto this as fast as possible. You can also use this in a Lost Box deck. Like I mentioned, there's a Mirage Gate, so you can put 2 Mirage Gates and play it onto this Regigigas and knock out that big Charizard if you need to. There's still double turbo, but I don't think you want to use double turbo on this because you do less damage. And the 330 is kind of the magic number you want to hit for these big Terra Pokemon. But I guess if you're worried about Ogerpons and other stuff like that, then that's fine. Minus 20 is okay because you're knocking it out anyhow. But yeah, this does have a lot of potential to take those big hits, to give out those big hits. I guess you could also use this in the with the other Regigigas. The one where if you have the other Regis in play, you can accelerate energy from the discard pile. You can do that, but you have to have a Terra Pokemon on your bench, and you got to have the Stadium card that you can have 8 benched Pokemon. There is a way you can make this Regigigas work, but this does have a lot of potential. And Regigigas, you gotta love Regigigas. It's a big, awesome Regi card. Regigigas is here at number 2. Now, at number 1 is a card that for a while I was unaware that it existed. But then Japan released some tournament information, and people soon quickly realized that there's a card in here that's actually really good. I think this is, I mean, I guess you can debate if this is number 1, but I think this is number 1 on many people's list. And it doesn't look like much, but it's something we have to take seriously because it's like it's like just about half the lists in Japan, and it's working. I'll tell you why in a second. That card at number 1 is the big bad Badu. Yes, Badu is the best card in this set. And here's why. Now, you might be looking at the HP and going, oh, it's 30 HP. How is that good? The attack that costs no energy. Itchy Pollen does 10 damage. During your opponent's next turn, they can't play any item cards from their hand. Yes, this is a thing that a lot of people are afraid of going against. Here's why. There's a lot of good item cards right now that a lot of these decks need to work. Your Charizard decks kind of need the rare candy. Your Regidrago decks need the energy switch. Your Lost Box decks need the Mirage Gate. There's a lot of decks right now that really need these item cards to work. And this card is going to forcefully make those decks change their lists in a way where if you play a Badu against them, they can somewhat survive. So now they're going to play, like these Charizard Pidgeot decks, they're going to play more Stage 1 evolutions. These Regidrago decks, I don't know what they would use. I guess they'd have to just manually attach. These Lost Box decks are going to have to manually attach. This card is a way to stall your opponent to where you can set up your side of the board, and by the time you're done setting up, hopefully your opponent has not a whole lot going for them. Then you can just start going, okay, knockout, 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 and just win the game right there. It's fascinating how this card is kind of changing the format in Japan, and I don't see any reason why it can't change the format over here. Because like I said, it's taken away some of these important item cards from certain decks, and it's stalling them out. It's stalling them for about 3-4 turns, and by then you got your whole board set up, and you're just ready to take these big knockouts and win in a couple of turns. And it's also got free retreat. So if you start with it and you can't attack with it right away, just retreat it, put something else in the active that you don't care about, and that's fine. So there you have it. I think Badu is the best card of the set. And what do you think of my top 10 list? What do you agree with? What don't you agree with? Do you think every single spot should have been an evolution card? Well, let me know down in the comments section below. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe, and be sure to join us for some more awesome perks right here on Mount Moon TCG.